guys. Welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkary, and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? I am a congested, snotty mess right now, dealing with like a head cold or like a sinus infection. I'm just so full of snot. So much snot. It's been hard to talk, which has been a real challenge for me because I do a lot of talking for everything. And I've been drinking a lot of honey and lemon, just in some hot water. It's been helping, but I'm just, it's been the worst. It's like the worst week for it too. We had so many shows. And I was like in the mornings, I literally couldn't talk. I had some comics that were crashing with me this week, and I couldn't really talk until, I don't know, 4 p.m. is when my voice finally got to a point where I could use it like a normal human being. And but this honey and lemon thing has really been helping a lot. So I don't know. My mom had some honey. When I was like, Mom, I need some honey. And I was expecting the crusty little bear. You know what I'm talking about? Like that little bear jar of honey. It's always so sticky. It's always in the back of the fridge. You always forget about it. Just a little yellow cap. It's a cute little bear though. But no, she had this legit local honey jar that she bought from some dude that raises bees here. I was like, oh, this is some real ass honey, and I think that made a little bit of a difference. And maybe, I don't know. They say it's supposed to help with allergies. If you use locally sourced honey, I guess because all the bees are making their honey with the stuff that you'd be allergic to, you kind of vaccinate. I don't know. I don't know if that's bullshit though. Might be. I feel like everything's bullshit today. Not just today specifically, but in our modern. I don't know. What's real? Is this real? This is getting weird real early. Okay, cool. Anyway, I'm a congested mess, and this is a podcast, and I've got a great guest today. Actually, I'm so excited to release this one. Matt is he's a comic out of LA. It was funny. I had read an article, maybe I'll link it in the show notes. It's this beautiful article that Matt wrote, maybe last year, and it's just all about a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the show. I think we go into a little bit more depth than that article. That article was kind of an overview of Matt's experience growing up evangelical and realizing that he was gay, and it's a beautiful piece. And I didn't realize when I met Matt that he wrote that, and it sort of dawned on me as we were hanging out. And it's really, really good. Matt's an amazing, thoughtful human being, and I listened back to this episode this morning, and a lot of times when I'm in the heat of the conversation when we record the podcast, I think it's good, but I listened back to it this morning. I'm like, oh, this is really good. I'm really excited to show this to you guys. And we talk about a lot of stuff in this one. One person that came up a bunch of times was Olivia Grace. I got to have her on the show. We talk about her quite a bit at the beginning because she's a good friend of Matt's and a good friend of mine. And I gotta reach out to Olivia. She's all over the place though. I think she's living in New York right now. Anyway. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. There's also in the background you'll hear, he doesn't say anything. You just kind of hear him walking around a little bit. Anthony DeSimito is a very funny comedian. He was hanging out with us when we recorded this podcast, and I've actually got an episode with Anthony I'm going to release next week. But a really funny thing happens where Anthony passes us a note as Matt and I are recording this podcast, and it's a great note. I actually have it pinned to my wall right now. Because I think it's so funny. I have a little board of comedian like memorabilia that they've like left for me, like notes and like thank you notes and like some of their merch and stuff. I think it's just kind of a fun thing for me because I have so many comics staying with me all the time, and so I have this like memory board that I'm building of all my friends that have crashed with me and left me silly things, and that note is up there right now because it's so goddamn funny. So, cool, guys. Stick around for the outro. I've got a few things I'm going to go over with you, just some housekeeping stuff like normal. So stick around for that. Just a few reminders. I'm going to say this at the top of the show just in case you don't stick around for the outro, because sometimes on podcasts, I don't stick around for other people's outros. I'm like, heard the meat of it. Heard the main part. I don't need your weird outro bullshit. So I get that. I'm very self-aware. So in case you don't stick around for that outro, live Sad Dad happening this Saturday, January 26th. It's Tioga Sequoia Brewery in downtown Fresno. I'm going to be I've been working pretty hard at building a live format of this podcast, making it fun with some games and some segments. I've got some real funny past guests that are going to be up, Ashley Johnson and Katie French, and we're going to play some silly dad games, and I've been working on a segment called Historical Dadicdotes, so it's fun, and come check that out. Tioga Sequoia, 5 p.m. is when the it's a big like festival. It starts at 5. I think my call time to stage, because there's going to be a bunch of bands and live performers. My call time is 6 o'clock. So I'm going to be doing a live Sad Dad at Tioga Sequoia. So come check it out. All right, shameless promo for me over. Let's get into this episode, guys. This is might be one of my new favorite episodes. I love this man to death. Let's do it. Here is Matt LeGrande.
That'd be so fun.
Where did you find that book?
I think it was actually one of my exes.
It was just on your shelf.
It was on. He gave me everything he owned. And it was something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's a little leany. You I can pull that in a little closer though. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool.
And then it's sorry, I made this.
Oh no, yeah, it's beautiful.
It's I'm still working on some kinks. It's a prototype. That's cool. Yeah, there you go. You got it. Is this the first time you've performed in Fresno? Have you like the Fresno Clovis area? Have you been
Yeah, I've never been here before.
Oh, right on. Do you do the road much or
the Red?
No, the road.
No, not too much. I mean, I went to actually Las Vegas with Olivia.
Mm-hmm. She's a road dog.
Yeah, she is. I was just texting her.
Were you?
She said Dave is a sweetie.
Aww.
Yeah, no, I don't do the road much. I did Las Vegas. I did Portland. Like all the shows there. That was super fun.
Yeah.
God, it's so good getting out of LA though.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It feels like, I mean, I didn't start in LA, but it always just feels good to make people laugh in like a different like zip code. You know, like you're like, oh, it's good. I am funny. You know.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have this problem with like imposter syndrome, where when I do the same jokes, I feel like I'm a hack or like I'm lying to the crowd. Like they don't know that I didn't just write this on the spot, which like, of course I didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I did write these jokes. They are my jokes. I have the right to tell them.
Yes.
Like, why am I mad at myself?
That's funny.
But then going to San Francisco and just getting to do material that I've like worked on feels great.
Do it for like a fresh audience, and
no one has heard these fucking jokes. Because also, I mean, there are amazing shows in LA, but a lot of the shows, like smaller shows, you have a lot of comics going to them,
right?
So it's people who have seen a lot of your material. So I feel like a lot of pressure to just always be like fresh. Yeah, which is a good pressure, but also like, I don't know. I feel like I'm still relatively newish, and I have every right to take my time, and I want to make jokes and work on my timing for them and whatever. So
tighten them up. Yeah, I mean, for feeling newish, you handled a pretty rowdy crowd well last night.
I don't know why I love rowdy crowds. I learned that when I went to Las Vegas. I was terrified, and Olivia kind of she prepped me before she went to Vegas. She's like, these are rowdy crowds. Like, no one at these shows is going to be gay. Like, a lot of them are like Trump supporting weirdos.
Yeah.
And I was a little nervous, and I got out there, and I feel like I connected with them more than a lot of liberal audiences.
Yeah.
Like they I mean, people just want to laugh, and they want to hear your like human experience. Like, and I felt like the more raw I was, especially with sex stuff, like they don't give your hair straight. They want to hear that you're a freak.
They respect that. That's
for real.
That's amazing. Did you start comedy in LA? Is that where you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started in Los Angeles. And
were you? But not part of the Orange County scene, because did Olivia start in Orange County?
Olivia started in Orange County when she was like 7 years old. And no, I met her my first year in comedy. Just in Los Angeles. She had moved to LA at that point.
I got you. Yeah.
And she was cool, and we were both like kind of, in the same age range and whatever.
She crushes out here, man. Whenever she comes out,
oh, I'm sure she's
a murderer.
And that's like the perfect crowd for her. Oh my god, yeah. She is like a 45-year-old trucker stuck in like a pretty 24-year-old's body.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, that's great. What was for you? What was the moment you were like, I'm gonna do this comedy thing? Like, were you a comedy nerd like growing up, or
not at all? I mean, so I was so conservative growing up, and comedy was not something I was allowed to watch, really. Stand-up specials, anything like, I mean, God, anything that mentioned masturbation. I remember we turned Last Comic Standing on for a second, and one of the guys, his first jokes was about masturbation. It was like, that was it. Then we turned it off. So I have like a really weird, I think, perspective on comedy, because the first time I ever saw stand-up was live in Los Angeles.
Oh, how cool.
Like, I went to a backyard show and saw Gerard Carmichael.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was like right before he blew up.
That's a great first show.
Oh my God. I was like, wow, these backyard comics are good. Yeah, oh my God, it was great. It was like Gerard Carmichael, Laurie Kilmartin, Chase Bernstein, Cameron Esposito. I remember she had a joke where she was like, she was talking about gender, and she was like, I identify as a fighter pilot. She was wearing like a leather jacket. I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
But I grew up so conservative, and I always thought I went to a really like prominent Christian college, and I always thought that I was going to go into pastoral ministry.
Yeah.
And when that worldview kind of crumbled, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I loved movies, and I wanted to be in warm weather, because that's the type of weather I grew up in. So I moved to LA, wound up at a comedy show, and I watched these people on stage telling their stories and just being fucking brutally honest, and I loved it. And it was like what I always wanted from church that I wasn't getting. And I was like, oh, this is like being a pastor without context.
100%, man. Yeah. I had another guest on. His name is Ashley Johnson, and his dad was a preacher, and he thought that was like comedy kind of filled a void for him too, because he was like the preacher pastor life kind of appealed to him because of that whole dynamic public speaking thing. But then he realized, I could be just a comedian and do the same thing. Like, oh my God.
And now when I can't go to church anymore, because I'm watching the pastors, and they like drop like the smallest joke, and the audience is like dying laughing, and I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I went to church, and LA church is like fucking insane nightmare. Like literally, I went to the church, and like Justin Bieber's pastor was like guest preaching that day, and like some of the Kardashians were in the crowd, and he was like, has everyone been good? Like, what up, Chloe? I see you. I hope you haven't been naughty. And like the audience like dying, and I'm like, what is going on here?
What is this?
And he's like for sure making so much money preaching that day, and it's like,
that is nuts, dude. Yeah, there's one of the mega churches around here just had like Kirk Cameron like come through, and it was like a big event. God. And I was like, man, does he need a feature act? Because that's what it feels like.
Kirk Cameron for sure needs to eat my ass. He sucks. I grew up watching all of his shit.
Oh, the Left
well,
Behind.
I loved Growing Pains. Oh my god, do you remember him in Growing Pains?
I didn't watch a lot of Growing Pains.
That was like where cool. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brittany Murphy started.
Yeah, and he seemed so cool. Like Kirk Cameron seemed so cool in that show.
Well, and then he turned into this like hyper conservative Christian, and like I don't mind if you're a Christian that's like your own prerogative, but the movies that he creates in the TV shows, like they're so agenda based that they like there's no art perspective, there's no honesty or like artistic perspective. It's so pushing an agenda of like this is like, and I hate liberal movies like that too.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, anything where it's like racism is real and it's like, okay, tell me a story, don't tell me what to believe.
Right. That's why I kind of have a hard time with a lot of documentaries, is when you recognize that bias and that agenda. It's you're not really presenting this objectively. But then again, I don't really know what the point of a documentary is otherwise. So I don't know. I guess just watch the news.
I mean, Vice is super liberal, but I feel like Vice, I enjoy watching their their episodes before it became a whole channel.
Yeah, right.
But it would just highlight different areas in the world, stories that you didn't hear. Like I remember one of them talking about like trans people in Iran. Oh, and it just gave you like the scoop,
right?
Without saying like this is good or this is bad, and there's no music in it. It was just telling you the story, and then you get to walk away with whatever you think.
Yeah, old school Vice was good.
Oh my god,
dude, that one. It was right on the cusp of when they started to blow up. But when they did that documentary on the Mormons in Mexico fighting the drug cartels, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is crazy.
Oh my god, I used to be so high watching Vice, and I would be losing my mind, like literally screaming at the TV.
Yeah.
And I would be like, I cannot wait till I'm not high anymore so I can tell people about this. And then like and then I would like not be high anymore, and I was like, I don't even know if what I thought was amazing was me.
Oh, that's so funny. You touched on it a little bit, but yeah, you said you grew up pretty conservative. You grew up in an interesting place.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Indonesia, which straight up sounds like a lie.
That's what I thought. I thought you were fucking with me.
Blonde hair and blue eyes. My parents moved there in the 80s. And they're both first generation born again Christians.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, they moved there in the 80s, like sold everything they had, got on a flight. I almost said ship. It wasn't the 1940s. They got on a big ship.
So, the fucking wheels on the side of it, steamboating on down. Yeah.
No, they got on a plane. And they still live there today. And so I was there till I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah, Indonesian was my first language.
No shit.
I'm an undercover brother. Yeah.
Did you? It's a dumb question, but did you? Well, I guess because your parents spoke fluent English, you probably didn't end up speaking English with like an Indonesian accent.
Yeah, I mean, I sound totally American. I sound like a fag, but.
That's wild. So like, talk a little bit about that. So like, what's day-to-day life in Indonesia like for you in that situation?
And yeah, so with Indonesia, like not only was I in Indonesia though, I was in an evangelical missionary community inside of Indonesia. So I have like a really warped presentation of Indonesia.
Sure.
And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I have, some sort of just resentments because I didn't really get to experience like the culture as I think I should have. Sure, it was always at a removed distance, and like we are the ones who know the answers, and these like poor locals, like they're all blind. Instead of just being able to like really appreciate like a fucking beautiful country. Right. Indonesia though, it's oh my god, like it doesn't get a lot of media coverage because it is it's the largest Muslim country in the world, and because of Islamophobia, that's not like a hot tourist destination. Right. Only people that go to Indonesia go to Bali, and Bali is half Buddhist, half Hindu. Oh, wow. So it's like a blue dot in the middle of a very Muslim country. It's the only part of Indonesia that's not Muslim. Yeah.
What was Indonesia's reaction to you guys being there? I mean, were they I mean, it wasn't like you were like under like locked guard or anything. I mean, you were.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was in a city of like 10 million people, like a very densely populated.
Holy shit.
Like it makes like LA traffic look like a breeze.
Yeah.
I remember when I visited America, like for the first time, like at an age where I was like conscious. I remember being on the roads and I looked at my mom and I was like, where are all the people? Like I thought like the rapture happened or something. Because in Indonesia, it's like the roads are constantly jam packed, like all the time.
Yeah.
I guess like people's reaction. I mean, it's illegal to be a missionary there.
Really?
So it was against the law. So we had code words for everything. We were M's. And like my mission organization is Pioneers, but we would say PI.
Okay.
And like, I don't know, you just like spoke in code for everything because you could be deported if you were,
Whoa.
So, I mean, there's that level of it. But I mean, just being a white person in Indonesia, I mean, anytime you walk down the street, people are like pointing and like whispering about you.
Yeah.
And
you're tall too. Is that a thing there?
Oh my God, yeah. So the average height of a woman in Indonesia, I think, is like 4'11", maybe 5 feet, and men is like 5'4".
Yeah.
And
you're just towering over everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 6'3". I was, I don't know, I was like 5 feet tall when I was like 9 years old.
Right.
So I was like the average height of a full-grown man, kind of.
Yeah.
So I mean, I stuck out like a sore thumb.
Was that alienating for you, or did you have friends? I guess is my question.
No friends, just me and I'm just kidding. I had a lot of friends.
Oh, that's good.
No, I mean, and Indonesia is amazing that the people are so warm and friendly, and because it's so densely populated, people know how to get along really well. They have to.
Yeah.
It's like a survival technique.
Right.
And it's very family oriented, like 4 generations of a family will live in a house together.
Yeah.
You know? So there's just like a very strong family bond, and I don't know, people are really warm and welcoming. It's like the sweetest people on earth.
Yeah,
like
that's great.
One thing that is considered really rude is like showing a sign that you are angry. Like, so even when things are really sad or dramatic, people will laugh. It's like a cultural thing they do there. Like you would break something precious that someone owned, and instead of them screaming at you, like they would just start laughing. Which seems like really fucked up and cruel, but it's just like, it's kind of the perfect reaction. It's like, because what are you going to do?
Yeah,
You're going to lose your mind over it?
Right.
But you just laugh about
this is what's happening. Oh,
wow,
man.
that's probably why I'm so fucked up.
I mean, you learn to laugh at the tragedy really early on, man. It's great for comedy. So
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm learning so much on this podcast.
Yeah, it's self-discovery. It's what we're doing through our dads. Yeah, we're humming right along here. I was, and so you went from you left Indonesia when you were 17.
Yeah,
and you were like going toward.
So
to
I moved to Chicago, and I went to Wheaton College, which was like my dream school at the time. They call it this is so annoying. Like I'm gonna walk into traffic after this. They call it the Harvard of Christian schools. It's like what like Christians know it as.
Sure.
It's like so it was like my dream because I wanted to be a pastor, and it's like where Billy Graham went, and like all these famous evangelicals. So I went there, and I remember thinking it was so liberal, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like I can watch like R-rated movies and no one is like judging me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was still in such a bubble. Like I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Like come to find out, like the Princeton Review every year ranks Wheaton as the #1 most homophobic campus in America.
Whoa.
Also #1 cafeteria food in America. We had like omelet lines.
Hello.
Yeah. It was great food. I would for sure go back just for the food.
Oh man. And so when is but is that the point where you kind of like start to see the cracks in the facade, I
went on these mission trips every summer when I was in college. and we would go to, it was so wild, I can't believe this is a program that exists. It was called Youth Hostel Ministry, and we would go to hostels in Europe and talk to travelers about their relationship with God and a higher power, and sort of get a feel. And the goal of it was because like Europe is so post-religion, because you know, like they're so done with it, they're over it, especially like Eastern Europe, where it's like we were fucking ruled by Soviets forever, like fuck this shit, we're just trying to like survive. Like give us bread, we'll be happy. So it was kind of like just everyone is going to like Africa or Asia or all this stuff, and this was just to see like what's up with Europe, like what's going on there. And honestly, it was like those summers talking to travelers about God, and me going in with this mindset that like I knew the answers and I was going to give them something valuable. And the people I would talk to who are traveling through Europe, they're like all these like often like PhD students and like really smart people who were like really, really thoughtful and really kind and like on their own accord, and they had no agenda talking to me. And it like changed. It changed my life.
That's
I was
wild.
like
Went
literally.
the wrong direction.
I know. I was like, God damn it.
I mean, but that's what happens when you talk to like a thoughtful, educated, intellectual human being. You know, I mean that like when like somebody without a bias that's well read on all of that stuff. I mean, yeah, that's why they keep to keep people in that bubble. You know, in that religious bubble, because. You know, when you have somebody like that, they just kind of like tear through the bullshit. All of that stuff falls apart.
Oh my God,
quick.
they did it in such a loving way. Like,
that's awesome.
I remember clear moments where it was totally the opposite, where the person was talking to me and I could see them looking at me being like, wow, this kid is so in the dark and has no idea what's actually going on in the world.
How wild.
And just feeling like, oh my God, I thought I was on the other side. Like, oh my goodness.
I mean, and it sounds like you, though, had the emotional intelligence to, I mean, because a lot of people will start to like double down. You know, I mean, when they experience what you experienced, like they'll double down on religion in a really ignorant way, and it sounds like you took in that information and
I mean, I like thank God I'm gay, to be honest. Like if I wasn't gay, I would be like I was a huge bitch when I was a Christian, and I was like, this is what's up, like these are the rules, and like I was such a stickler, so legalistic about things, and obviously like I had this like, you know, war inside because I knew I was gay, but I wasn't allowed to be.
Right.
And so like hearing their stories and then like hearing how like homosexuality is not a bad thing. Like obviously I was more inclined towards that. And it like, I don't know. I don't know how I got to where I am now. Like it's crazy that I remember it being the scariest time in my life, like really considering that, because it felt like I was either like gonna have an enjoyable life and go to hell, or suffer through life and then go to heaven. And I chose to have an enjoyable life and stop believing in hell.
Well, it sounds like you figured it out at the right time too, because I mean, there was actually, this happened recently in our community, but there was a guy who was married for 15 years, had kids, and he was a big part of the church we went to, and he came out as gay, and then they got divorced, and everybody kind of really celebrated him, but I was like, man, it's gotta be a bummer for his ex-wife.
Oh my God, it's so sad.
You know.
I mean, it would happen all the time in the Christian communities. That was my biggest fear, like being one of those married dads who would like abandon their family. And it's like, I mean, celebrate that. I mean, I realize it takes a lot to come out like that, but man, that woman just wasted 15 years of her life. You know? Also, it's like, oh my God, it's like kind of selfish to that person that he would even waste her time like that. I mean, obviously it wasn't intentional. And all that stuff.
I mean, it's a
complicated thing,
a difficult situation all the way
God,
around.
that poor fucking woman, having to have sex with his gay dumb dick.
Totally.
That sucks.
Oh man. So like, you're
someone needs to go down on that woman.
That poor lady's earned it. I for whatever reason, I might be totally wrong about this, but you were talking about those conversations you were having with people in Europe, and I pictured them all happening on a train for some reason. I don't.
Oh, so many on trains.
Did they? Yeah. Oh, yes, I pictured it right.
Yeah, we were traveling all throughout the city. And then often like on tours of the city, like walking around. Yeah.
And so you start having these conversations with these people. They're obviously going a slightly different direction than you anticipated, and you start having some awakenings. Where does it kind of go from there for you?
I lost my virginity on a mission trip, like in Europe.
Wow.
Like I mean, I guess to back up, I had these conversations with people, and my brain is like spinning at this point because I had been so set in my ways for like 20 years almost, and like knowing that I was in the right. And yeah, I mean, college was a trip. Like, yeah, I remember I don't want to like go super dark, but I was very suicidal, because I did not know what to do. I was like, do I leave everything that I've ever known behind? Because I'm pretty sure it's not true, and it doesn't feel good at all. Right. Like I felt like I was just lying to myself every day. Yeah. And so I remember literally when I was on the mission trip, I knew I had to do something physical. Like it's so weird. Like, okay, say I acknowledge I was gay, which I could have just done that, but like I needed to make it kind of felt like I was ripping a Band-Aid off. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, then I need to fuck a butt and make sure I don't get zapped by lightning. And I'm gonna do that. So I mean, honestly, it's not like the smartest thing to do, but like that's just what I did.
That's what you needed in that moment. Yeah.
Truly. I remember and I was like praying to God, and I was like, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if any of this is real. Yeah. If you love me, you'll understand that I'm on the verge of killing myself. I have to do something drastic to like change the course of my life. Yeah. And I went out I was in Europe. There's gay bars everywhere. I would go on prayer walks at night. Wow. Yeah. And go to gay bars and have sex with guys and then come back. Yeah. And and like
I get it. The quote unquote prayer walks. Prayer walk. That was your alibi. I got it.
Yeah. People would be like, "Oh my God, that was amazing. You were out for 4 hours praying." I was like, "Yeah, I was praying. I don't get HIV." I remember literally peeling a condom off of a guy and putting the condom on my own dick, and then having sex with the guy that guy was having sex with, which is not how condoms work.
That's so funny. I mean, it's gross, but it's funny. Yeah.
But I don't know, like come full circle now, like I had to just like wipe my slate completely clean. And I was like it was near the end of college. I was like, okay, I definitely am gay. I definitely don't understand why we have all these rules in Christianity. But then like flash forward to where I am now, like I find myself to be like a very openly spiritual person. Yeah. And I'm not opposed to I'm not opposed to any of it. I don't subscribe to any religion at all, but like the higher power, God, energy, whatever you want to call it, like I'm into it. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, you were talking about astrology, and
oh my God, I love astrology.
Oh my God, is that just a fun thing for you? Do you feel like there's really something to it?
Both. I mean, it feels like Pokemon to me. It's like so interesting. Yeah. And it's fun. Like you have like your little like character. Like I'm a Capricorn. Like I'm a sea goat. You know, like it's fun. Like that was my like chosen character.
I have a totem. That's
yeah, it's cute. But I don't know. It makes sense to me too, though. Like sure. This is what people use from the beginning of time to make sense of their origins, you know, like trying to understand things. All they had were the stars. Yeah. So these guys and women and trans people and non-binary, and they would study the stars. Yeah. And it's the oldest thing that we have. And even like, it's funny too, like if you look at the Bible, like the story of Jesus and the three wise men were literally looking at the stars to find where Jesus was. They're like using astrology. Right. So I mean, as much as anything works, I mean, this is, I don't know,
but I mean, it seems like it's a happy medium for you because, you know, whether it was Christianity or not, you obviously had a spiritual hole that you needed, and it seems like you found it in a way that's not like problematic or toxic or, you know.
Don't get me wrong, astrology is very problematic. I'm just kidding. No, people in LA are obsessed with astrology. It's like so annoying.
Oh man. Did I tell you about the astrology crusades? Yeah. Look, in West Hollywood was devastating.
Coming. Yeah, they're for sure coming. Yeah, if you're a Pisces, you're fucked. Yeah, it is. It's fun, and also like whether or not it's true, it's like an interesting conversation starter.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I don't know. I like getting to know who. That's one of my favorite thing. My favorite thing about comedy is the act of learning to be transparent with others. Nothing hits me harder from anyone's set than when they like go on stage and they're just completely lay out their shit and tell me the most awful fucked up shit they've ever done without trying to get approval. They're just saying like, these are things I've done. It's so like human and freeing. And you're like, oh my God, like it's okay to be this way.
Yeah, dude, we had there's a comic we have to headline every now and then, and I've seen his set a million times, but he came up and he was going through a divorce, and I didn't realize it till he mentioned it while he was on stage. And we had like 6 people turn out for this show, and he got so dark and so real in ways, because like he had so many bits about his now soon to be ex, and like he would do the bit, and then he would do like a little like director's note on the bit, and like it got so dark, and I was dying in the back. And he got off stage, and I was like, dude, that was the funniest fucking set I've ever seen you do. And he's like, really? It felt like the worst. And I was like, no, you're wrong. Like, it was so good. So yeah, it's
so interesting. Like I feel like continually the stuff that scares me the most, and I'm like afraid of rejection, that is honestly what people like want to hear.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, like I had this HIV scare, and the doctor was like calling me into her office, and I was like, can you tell me like over the phone? She's like, legally, like I can't tell you over the phone. And I was like freaking out. Yeah. Long story short, it like turned out to be syphilis, which was curable. And I was like, thank God I have syphilis or whatever. Yeah. But I was so self-conscious to talk about all that stuff on stage. Right. And just also like, you know, I want like, if gay people happen to be in the audience, I want them to think I'm hot. I want them to have sex with me and la la la. I don't want them to think I'm like some STD ridden like slut, which I am. And but like talking about that stuff on stage, that was the first time where I really felt like I connected with an audience. Yeah. That was in like my first 6 months of stand up. But it was like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing what I want to do. Yeah. And people were receptive and they loved it. And like, I don't know, it was great.
You got it.
Yeah. So
just got handed an amazing note. See you in a bit.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. The guy I wrote up with here is going to get fucked. He just passed us that on a note on a paper towel. I'll be back soon. I'm going to get fucked.
You're Matt LeGrande.
Yeah, that's me.
I said your name wrong last night. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
I think I said Grande.
I feel like I should have made my stage name Grande. It like sounds way more diverse and fun.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I was just
Oh
lost in the moment.
It's not phonetic. It has an E on the end.
But this is a podcast where we talk about dads, and you have a dad. We've already mentioned him a couple times.
I have a dad.
Yeah. And usually the part of the where I like to start with this part of the show, I just start from the beginning. Like, we know where your dad ended up in Indonesia, but where did he grow up?
My dad's from Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Kentucky's the South, right?
Yeah, it's South. Yeah, the Dixie line.
Yeah. What are weird words that he says? He says, what is it? Oh, a permit. Like a permit. He calls it a permit.
A permit. Yeah.
Wow, this is a fascinating story about my dad.
That's okay. What was
my dad's from Louisville, Kentucky. He was actually like he almost was a professional bowler.
Really?
Before he became a missionary.
Wow.
I remember he like sold all of these trophies and like when he like turned to God and was like, I'm gonna be a missionary, and he sold all these trophies so that like instead of him getting the glory, it would be like God getting the glory.
Hey, yeah, okay.
Which like, I'm sure power to you, but also in retrospect, it's like you can be awesome and God can be awesome too.
Yeah, right. It's okay.
I think Christians often have this mentality that they like need to suffer on earth.
Yeah,
and
it's
a
big
like
thing.
God wants you to have fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So what was? Do you know what? I have any idea what kind of like kid he was like? Was he like real precocious, or was he into sports, or what was?
I know he played sports a lot growing up, and then he had really bad shoulders, and that's why he went into bowling, because he was like playing football and baseball, I think, and he like tore something in his shoulder, and so he had to do a sport that was way less physical.
Gotcha.
And bowling's like almost all like technique, you know, and it's in your wrist and shit.
Yeah.
So my dad, though, his background. So I said my parents are first generation born again Christians.
Yeah.
Like my mother was Catholic and they were pretty like religiously Catholic, and my dad was pretty, I say pagan, which sounds like they were like scratching rocks and like screaming at wolves or something. Just like they didn't really have any religion, you know, go to church on Easter type of thing. But my dad's background is pretty he doesn't like to talk about a lot. It was pretty painful and pretty tragic, I think.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, his parents were divorced at a young age, and both of his parents were alcoholics. His dad was a gambling addict, and kind of wild. My grandfather, who I only met twice, he like had both of his legs cut off from type 2 diabetes.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
From his alcoholism. Wow. He was so addicted to gambling that like they had to sell everything that they had. And his best friend owned a Holiday Inn hotel. Yeah. And his best friend wanted to help him out, but he knew anytime he would give him money, he would just spend it at the casinos. Yeah. So what he did was just gave him a permanent room at the Holiday Inn. And that's like where my grandpa died. Oh my God. Like legless in the bed of a Holiday Inn hotel.
That's rough. Yeah.
But yeah, my dad, I mean, it's his parents essentially abandoned him when he was like 13 years old. Jeez. And he was on his own.
Did he have any siblings? Or?
Yeah, he had 3 younger siblings, and they all like went with his mom. Oh. And because he was like the oldest, I guess his parents were just kind of like, you can figure things out. Like you're old enough to do life on your own.
At 13? Wow.
Yeah, just crazy.
So, and this is all happening in Kentucky, in Louisville?
Yeah, in Louisville.
Yeah,
wow. And I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall, because I hear things from like one of my uncles about my dad that just sounds so like different than the story that he gave me. But I mean, I think he was I remember he used to sell weed, and like he was like always getting into trouble, like any abandoned 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Like that's not even a bad thing, like selling weed.
Yeah,
legal
right.
now. But he was I know he was like always like a really strong leader though too. Like he was class president. I think he ran as a joke in his high school. People were like, "Yeah, Larry, you should run," and then like he won because he was popular.
Holy
shit!
Man.
My dad's 6'5". He's like a good-looking dude. So he's definitely like leader material.
Yeah. Wow, and he's doing all that while being homeless. Like,
well, they had a home, and when his parents like split up, I think they. Both of his parents were cheating on each other with other people, and then they both went with the other person. And they both left, and they left him in that house. Whoa. And so he like had a house to himself.
Wow.
And just went to school. Like I don't understand like how it helps me understand where he is right now, because the church like literally saved his life. You know what I mean? It gave him a sense of purpose. It gave him a family, and that's like what he's like longing for.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I like get it, and I understand why he's so like, you know, hell-bent on Christianity,
right?
Because he needs that like crutch and that source of support.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went to high school, and eventually, I think when he was like 24, he finally like he was at a Billy Graham like rally. Do you know Billy Graham?
Oh yeah.
Very famous.
That's Billy Graham country. He's in.
Yeah. So Billy Graham will go around and do like these big rallies at like open baseball fields and things like that, and like he got saved at one of those rallies.
Wow.
So after just kind of like dicking around forever, I got saved there, and then he went to a Christian college where my mom was actually a professor. Whoa. And they met at Liberty. That's where Jerry Falwell is. Do you know Jerry Falwell?
The what is it? The minority? No, the quiet majority. I forget what it is. The moral majority. Is that Jerry Falwell?
He has that very famous case. What is it? The People versus... I don't know, but he's the one who created the parody laws. Because Hustler magazine did like a... they did like a spread with... Jerry Falwell was like a really obnoxious religious leader. And Hustler magazine like did a spread of Jerry Falwell and like probably like getting his dick sucked by like hot big titted girls or
funny.
something.
Yeah.
But it was like obvious like Photoshop.
Yeah.
And he took them to court and they took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And it's like what created the parody laws.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, there was a movie about it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I didn't know that either. Jerry Falwell walked my mom down the aisle.
Shut
up. My
up.
mom was his press secretary.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm like Christian royalty.
That is wild. And so like so he meets your mom. Is your mom a little older than him? Is that
they're like, I think she's 2 years older than him.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, and I don't know. I mean, she seems kind of fascinating too in her own right. And I'm not super rigid. Tell me a little bit about your mom. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, she her family. Her mom was the oldest of 10 children.
Whoa.
They're Polish immigrants. And they owned a restaurant in Pennsylvania called Wise's. It's like a diner.
Sure.
And so the bottom floor was a restaurant and the second floor is where the family lived.
Oh, wow.
And my mom, I guess it's kind of wild. They were a Catholic family, and my uncle was telling me that like growing up there was like a big rivalry in their neyborhoods between Catholics and Protestants.
Oh wow, they brought that over from the old country, huh?
Right. So like growing up, like people not when my mom was a kid, but when her parents were kids.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So when they first moved over in like the 50s and shit. Or no, when they were kids it was like the 30s. But like literally like the Christians would like beat up the Catholics.
Whoa.
And it was like this whole thing. So when my mom got saved, quote unquote, it was like a huge deal for her family too, because it was like you're no longer a Catholic, like you're a Christian, you're one of the ones who like beat us up.
Yeah, that's wild. It's so weird too, because I mean it's just labels, but I mean that's so much part of their identity that it really seems significant.
Yeah, it's tribalism.
Yeah,
it's like your football team.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was just gonna ask what was the change for her? I mean, why did she decide to move from Catholicism to?
I know she felt a lot of. It's so weird. I think Christianity is just as legalistic, but I felt like she thought Catholicism was a lot about going through the motions, which there is like a lot more of like a religious aspect to it, like say 12 Hail Marys, rub these beads, like just kind of ludicrous stuff, where a lot of that is more symbolism, and I'm like kind of into all that. I like that shit. Whereas Christianity is like God already paid for our sins and now you're free. So I know there was a total like freedom in that, and just I think it's interesting just how people just kind of like to it's like a not an uncommon pattern, but like whatever your parents did, you kind of want to do the exact opposite of it.
Right.
Like her parents were into Catholicism, and she was like, "Fuck that, I'm gonna be a Christian." And then I'm like, "Fuck that, I'm gonna be a astrology loser." But I don't know. There's kind of this like inclination to kind of go against the grain. I guess. At
least in your family, I mean, maybe you guys are all just rebels. Maybe
it's funny when I look at my parents, because they're both rebels in their families. They rejected their families and accepted Jesus,
and their families
went across the world.
Like their families look at them probably in a similar light to the way they looked at you when you started living your lifestyle. It's wild. It makes you wonder what. Is it just going to come full circle and your kid's
my child's going to be a missionary? I'm going to kill him. I'm going to like send him to the island where they kill missionaries. Like, go to that island. They're really friendly there. Bye, bitch.
Oh man. So your dad starts going to college. He meets your mom. At what point do they start going on missions together, or like what? How does that evolve?
They stayed in the States for a few years. I have 4 siblings.
Do you?
I'm the 4th out of 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they they worked for like the church, and my dad was, because he had started college later, they like waited for him to get his degree and stuff. My dad got like a master's in like business and Greek after he got like his bachelor's and shit. So and then also one thing that's fascinating about my dad, he filed for bankruptcy, I think, when he was like 20 years old. Mm-hmm. So like he like had spent all this money and gotten into like a ton of debt, and then filed for bankruptcy. When he became a Christian, he felt guilty about filing for bankruptcy, and he decided that he was going to pay back all the money that he had filed for bankruptcy.
Wow.
So he like looked up all of his debts, and before they were going to go on overseas and be missionaries, he worked really hard and made sure to pay off like he would send checks to these places that like he technically no longer owed money to.
Wow. Yeah.
So my dad is like
nuts.
really, I don't know, just like very like, I mean, that's just such an extreme example of like how black and white he is about things, and like how honest of a person he like wants to be, and make sure like he has like a clean slate.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty like, I mean, his level of integrity is wild, like to the point where it's like illogical. And but he did that, and like I guess he used to have horrible credit because of all that, and now like he has a perfect credit score. Yeah. Like he always, like my parents are so like, they never spend money that they don't have. They never use credit. They like, my dad is so smart with credit cards. Yeah. Like he will, like he'll mail each of us like 5 kids a credit card, a copy of the one that he's using. He's like, I'm trying to get $2,000, like I'm trying to get like $5,000 on this credit card so I can get a free hotel in this city that I'm traveling to. So we'll all use that credit card, and then we'll like send him the money that we used in that credit card. Yeah. Like he just knows how to use the system.
That is wild. Yeah.
And then he'll pay it off. He'll do the $5,000, pay it off, and then cancel the credit card and get the free hotel.
Oh, all right, cool. Way to go, Dad. That's clever as shit.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And and they end up in Indonesia. What was the draw to them about Indonesia? Was it because it was such a Muslim country? Is that?
Indonesia has the largest number, they call it UPGs, unreached people groups.
Oh.
So there's a verse in the Bible that says like, Christ will come back when every nation, every tongue has heard his name.
That's right. I remember that verse. I grew up slightly evangelical myself, so yeah. So
like they're kind of on a mission. They're like Christians have mapped out like how many unreached people groups are left, and I think the number is like really closing in. But Indonesia is compiled of thousands of islands, and it has the largest number of unreached people groups. So they chose that place because it was like it has the most like targets that we need to hit.
I mean, because I mean they're not just Christian, but they're like on the bleeding edge of Christianity. Like they're like that's amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, like, and I remember when I came back to the States, like, and I would meet other Christians, and they like weren't into like, they didn't feel like they had to like share the gospel with other people. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're not actually Christians. Yeah. Like, you don't know, like, I'm a real Christian. Wow. You know what I mean? Like if you know the word of God and you're not sharing it with people, like, what are you doing? Like, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I remember one time when I was in, I don't know, I must have been 8th or 9th grade. I had, there was this buddy of mine. We were going to this evangelical conference, like a youth conference, and this buddy of mine had this shirt that said, "I dare you to ask me about Jesus." And some dude just at this conference was like, "Hey man, what's up with that Jesus guy?" And my buddy was like, like I was like, he just crumbled like a leaf. And that guy had asked him about it. He was Christian, like if he's already on your team. But
Oh my God, Christians are so fucking stupid.
Yeah, they can be, man. Oh goodness. And so, okay, and so they moved it. At what point did what's the age difference between like you and your siblings? Like, what did your parents have kids right away, or did they?
They were like 28, 27 when they got married. My mom had my oldest sister when she was 30. We're all 2 years apart.
Gotcha. Just kind of stair-stepped on down.
Yeah. My older 3 siblings, they're more like go with the flow of the religion. They all live on the East Coast in Delaware, which is so unfortunate. It's such a tragedy that they chose Delaware. To move there. No taxes. Whoa. Also nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like pretty chill, go with the flow Christians. Like they don't really rock the boat too much in that area.
Yeah.
And I get along with all of them.
Yeah.
You know, they're really nice and like they're, you know, I don't know. They might, some of them might believe technically that I think my oldest sister is the only one really that it would like say on paper she doesn't think that I should be with a man. But the other two are like so nice and understanding and accepting. And then I'm in LA, and then I have a younger sister, and I like consider myself pretty spiritual. And then my youngest sister, she is like an atheist, and she like works for a marijuana company in San Luis Obispo. And
good for her.
Yeah, is Slow close to here?
It's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not far.
Cool.
Yeah.
So she's just like doing her own thing.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me look better. I'm like, I'm not the worst one.
But clearly, you two are the cool ones.
For sure.
For sure.
And we're the hot ones too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That's what really matters. I mean, the older three are happily married, and we're like hot dumb sluts.
Yes.
Just kidding.
I love it. Well, I mean, are you like close with any of them, or are you guys, or is it just you and your younger sister that really like bonded, or?
It's weird. We were all together for Christmas this past year, and like, I mean, last month was Christmas.
Yeah.
There's such a disconnect for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm such a go-getter, and like, you know, I moved to LA like right after I graduated Christian college because I just needed to like do something different. And like, I know LA is intimidating for a lot of people, and I was just like, I'm gonna fucking go there and do my thing.
Right.
And then just jumped into stand-up, and I have huge like dreams for myself and stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, none of my siblings are like that. And that's okay that they're not, but like, you know, they're doing what they want to do. They're getting married, having kids, like, but for me, I'm like, I always want to be like learning and growing and like evolving,
and that's exactly what stand-up is. So yeah, it makes sense that you'd be
but I don't know, like it's kind of frustrating for me. Like I don't like have anything to talk about with my siblings. Yeah. My parents are like, I don't know, I think of anyone in my family, my parents and I have spent the most time like kind of reconciling our relationship and are like kind of close now because of that.
Oh, that's great.
Like we've really hashed things out.
Yeah.
And yeah, my siblings and I were just kind of like on a different wavelength. I don't know I don't know. They're like, none of them keep up with politics. Like none of them like are interested in things that they don't like, like if that makes sense.
No, I know
like
what you mean.
I like to like, we're always at comedy shows, or like you're always hearing different people's ideas and like having to like debate with people about stuff, and like in a fun way, you just like learn to like, you know, we hang out with so many people we disagree with.
Right.
But that's what makes it fun.
All the time. Yeah. For sure.
But
I mean, it's funny. They would probably say that you're in some kind of a bubble, but in reality, it sounds like they're in a big bubble. So
I mean, I'm definitely in a liberal bubble for sure. But also, like, Los Angeles is the #1 most diverse city in the world.
Yeah.
Like, we're around so many different people. I mean, you visit LA quite frequently. Like, we're around so many different types of people.
Right.
And I don't know. It's interesting. It's fun. Yeah. It's wild. No week is the same. You're always meeting different people. When I interact with my siblings, I mean, they have like a few friends, but like, you know, they go to work, they go home, and that's like their thing. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. So
and they love it.
People of simple taste, and that's, I mean, there's a virtue to that.
I mean, I'm really jealous of it. I wish I could be happy doing
it. And I was going to ask you too. So what, I guess maybe then and now, what was your relationship like with your dad growing up, and what's it like now?
Yeah. So growing up, my parents are both workaholics, and my dad is like very, very focused on, he had this mission that he had to like save everyone in the world. Right. It's like not an uncommon missionary story, but like he knows this. Like he left his family pretty much to serve God. And so none of us really had a close relationship with him growing up. Me especially. And there was a whole like thing where like, I don't know, like a lot of Christians, I have a joke about it, but like a lot of Christians blame like gay kids on the father because like that's why they're gay, because they didn't get along with their dads.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I don't know. There was like that whole, I always wondered, like when I was growing up and I knew that I was gay, I was like, I felt pressure to be close with my dad because I was like, if I don't want to be gay, like I need to like be closer with my dad, and that will make me not gay.
Yeah. That's wild.
Which I don't think that works, but but yeah, my dad and I weren't close at all growing up, and I definitely like resented him for that, because he was always focused on other people and like had to save them. So I kind of felt like a nuisance. Yeah. And then when I went off to college, like things changed, and when I came out too, like it's like my dad woke up and was like, shit, like I have kids and I haven't spent time with them.
Oh shit.
And
you guys are already grown up at that point. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, wow.
But it's kind of wild because like I remember hating my dad so much. Like I wanted nothing to do with him. I thought he was so annoying. I like hated that there were all these other missionary kids growing up who were close with their dads, and I wasn't one of those.
Yeah.
I think once I got older and like learned more about his story, it gave me a lot of empathy to like understand where he was coming from. He had no example of a father.
Right.
Like his dad was an alcoholic, gambling addict.
Right.
With no legs, living in the holiday.
Yeah.
My dad on paper like did an amazing job.
Right.
But as we got older, like I think coming out, like I'm such a confrontational person, and he did not agree with me, and it was this huge butting of heads, and it caused us to like fight, and I like got to let out a lot of anger, and I got to tell him to fuck off, and like he got to tell me that he was angry at me, and it caused us to build a relationship.
Right.
And then
you kind of tore down the old one.
Oh my God, it kind of like broke through all this tension.
Yeah.
Just like, we got to say fuck you to each other so that we could eventually like hug it out kind of.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be a little teary. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It is kind of wild. And like today, I don't know, I laugh with my dad a lot, and after the Trump stuff happened, like that was huge with me and my relationship with my dad. Yeah. He would send me all these articles about like how Hillary was like an evil monster and stuff, which she probably is low-key, but I still voted for her. Yeah, right. She was just playing the game. But he voted for Trump, and I didn't understand. And I was just like, as a Christian, like, I don't get how you can do this. Right. Like, this guy, like, he's been married to 3 supermodels, and his history has, like, a whole thing of divorce, like, so many mistresses. Like, how is this the way he talks about women? It's not, like, a Christian example. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. And he stood, like, I don't know, he just stood by it and, like, kept justifying it for, like, no reason. I think it was mostly rooted in sexism. And I remember messaging him, and I told him, like, Dad, like, I can no longer talk to you because I don't feel like I'm able to love you well. Like, all I can say is bad things right now. Yeah. And so I cut off communication for 6 months. Wow. And I felt so free during that time because I wasn't getting... My dad used to text me Bible verses, email me things, like, with subtle messages all the time. And when I reached out to him again... I think cutting him off for a while kind of woke him up. Yeah. And was like, and when we touched base again, I was like, hey, like, I'm an adult now. I'm financially independent. If you want to be friends, we can be friends. And if you don't want to be friends, then we don't have to do that. Yeah. And he wanted to be friends. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's. I mean, yeah. You know, I mean, I think we'd all prefer a dad, but having a friend, you know, is great too. I mean,
yeah, I mean, and he's such a provider, and he has good advice, like, as far as, like, technicality, like, he's so good at organizing things and stuff, so he is good in that regard. But I had to emotionally remove myself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of innate in everyone. We want like the approval of our father or our mother, and I had to kind of let that go and be like,
that's hard.
I'm my own person, and I'm gonna go on my own journey. And like, you're not gonna like a lot of the things I do, but this is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and I believe in it. You know. I really believe in telling this joke about my dick. It's really important.
You gotta understand that. It's hilarious.
So stupid.
That's great.
Yeah. And like my dad he just saw me do stand up for the first time last month.
Oh, no shit. Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I'm going to talk about you on stage. And like, it has nothing to do with you, actually. It's more just like the idea of a dad. And you just happen to be mine. And we talked about it afterwards, and we laughed, and we had dinner for like 4 hours.
Oh,
and
that's
just
great.
like,
I love that.
And it's wild. And he's still a missionary and still holds to his beliefs. And like after the dinner, he texted me and he was like, I love my gay son.
Oh, God. Stop it. You're going to make me cry the second time. Fuck me, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a work in progress, but like he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great, fucking psychopath.
Yeah,
and I love him, and yeah,
that is a beautiful way to end it. I normally ask for a dadictote at the end. I feel like you shared a lot. But I mean, did you have another story in the chamber? If you didn't, that was a beautiful place to end. But if you have like one particular memory of your dad that really sticks out that you it can be funny or silly or whatever you want it to be.
I just one thing that does not make sense to me about my parents, like how conservative they are, they would take us to see like really fucked up movies.
Okay.
Like I remember one time as a family we went to see like Final Destination 2. Like why would you? It was so, I was like 9 years old.
That's fucking crazy.
And I remember one time like we just didn't really know how to talk, so we would like go see movies. But I remember my dad, like he's so tall, and so he'd always like have to sit in a certain section in the movie. But we went to see Anaconda 2, which like I loved the movie Anaconda. But we went to see Anaconda 2, and I just remember my dad right after the movie, he was like, "Hey Matt, do you want a sip of this apple juice?" And I looked over, and he handed me a water bottle that he had filled with pee, and he had like he told me he didn't want to get up during the movie to leave because he was so into it, so he just peed in this water bottle in the middle of the movie theater.
Dad's such a pro. That's so funny.
And I thought it was hilarious, but it's also like I don't know, this is like my dad, who's like a very respected Christian missionary, but like on the inside he is like he's like a little boy, and he's a goofball.
Yeah, that's so funny. Matt, you've been so much fun today.
Thanks.
If people want like more Matt LeGrande in their life, where can they find you?
Probably any bathhouse in your local area. Just kidding. Not kidding. I post about shows and stuff on Instagram. My handle is Evangelical Daddy.
Nice.
Which is because I got an evangelical daddy. Yeah, and then whatever, Facebook or Twitter is just cool. Matt LeGrande.
I'll link your Insta in the show notes. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You got it. Matt LeGrande, everybody. He's great, right? How good was that? It was a great episode of Sad Dad. He's hit all the Sad Dad notes. Thanks, Matt, for being on and being so open and honest and real with us. I adore you. And follow Matt on Instagram. He's got he's so funny, and his Instagram is always so funny. And then like I said, I'm going to try to link that article he wrote. So see if I can dig it up, and you guys can check it out. And rate and review on iTunes if you can. Sad Dad Podcast. If you could do that, that'd be amazing. If you have any dadictotes of your own you'd like to share, send them to me at saddadpodcast@gmail.com. And you know what, guys? If you're gonna be at the live Sad Dad event, and you have a cool dadictote that you'd like to share. I think I'm going to open it up. I think I'm going to do like 2 or 3 audience participation dadecdotes. So let me know. I'm trying to screen them a little bit, just because I don't want somebody up there talking crazy about their dad, and for forever. They kind of have to be a little tight, like 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes at the most. So, but yeah, if you've got a cool dad story you want to share and you want to tell it live on the podcast, the live podcast, you just hit me up. Let me know. saddadpodcast@gmail.com, or hit me up on social media, and I'd be happy to have you on the live event. So let me know. And then, Sad Dad Patreon, if you want to support the show financially, I'd love you to death. I'll love you regardless, because you guys are rad. And I think that is it. Guys, adios.